Things have gotten more unusual at the top levels of the Chinese Communist Party recently. A photo of CCP General Secretary Xi Jinping looking awkward has been spreading online, and people are starting to wonder if something big is about to change. Ho Qing, the wife of Singapore's former Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong, shared a Facebook post a few days ago. The post mocked Xi Jinping, saying that during his 12 years in power, he's acted like a mafia boss. The post sparked a lot of discussion. Just days later, she shared another controversial post. This time, it was an article by Michael Petraeus, a scholar from a Singapore-based think tank. The article was published on April on the Critical Spectator website and analyzed Trump's latest strategy to pressure the CCP. The article pointed out that Trump is hitting Chinese goods with high tariffs, while giving 75 other countries a 90-day pause on new tariffs, if they're open to negotiations. The goal is to isolate the Chinese government and pressure it to compromise in multilateral talks. It also mentioned that China is under growing pressure from blocked exports and supply chains moving elsewhere. One striking photo in the article shows Xi Jinping sitting alone on a chair outdoors, wearing a mask. It symbolizes China's isolation from the world. It turns out this photo was taken on March 10, 2020, during Xi's first visit to Wuhan after the outbreak began. At that time, Wuhan was heavily locked down. Snipers were on standby, the streets were under strict control, and police were going door to door to maintain order. Commentator Tang Jingyuan said Ho Qing's actions are significant. She's not only Lee Hsien Loong's wife, but also the former head of Singaporean conglomerate Temasek. She's currently a board advisor at Tsinghua University's School of Economics and Management. She has close ties to former CCP Vice President Wang Qishan. Back in 2007, when Wang was mayor of Beijing, he welcomed her during an official visit. Tang believes that her posts could reflect internal power struggles within the CCP. Tsinghua School of Economics and Management has long been linked to the factions of Zhu Rongji and Wang Qishan, and as a board member, Ho Qing may have access to inside information. What's even more interesting is that she hasn't responded to online calls asking her to delete the posts. Tang suggests that this could mean she has silent approval or support from some within the party, and that she's not afraid of retaliation. One person on social media, known as Mr. 3 Votes, commented that the photo sends a warning to Xi. He said Xi has ruined U.S.-China relations, which threatens the massive overseas wealth and the safety of the children of the CCP elite. Now, within even Xi's own faction, some don't want to go down with him. They're quietly waiting for a chance to remove him, just like what happened with the Gang of Four in Mao Zedong's time. Nikkei Asia recently reported that Trump's decision to target only the CCP with tariffs has shocked the world and may be causing policy rifts inside Beijing. Some Chinese officials are now privately admitting that relying on exports is no longer a sustainable strategy. Henny Sender, founder of Apsara Advisory, said the CCP has ignored calls from economists to boost domestic demand and has stuck to an export-driven model. But with overcapacity, weak consumer demand, and shrinking profits, it's becoming even harder to survive in export markets. Data shows that China's trade surplus last year nearly hit $1 trillion. That's one of the main reasons behind Trump's push for higher tariffs. This latest round of tariff hikes has triggered a second wave of impact. China is now struggling to redirect its exports, the yuan is losing value, and foreign investment is shrinking. Nilkanth Mishra, chief economist at Axis Bank, warned that all of these consequences would eventually explode across China. One surprising detail came from Nikkei Asia. During the China Development Forum in March, some senior officials and retired central bank members privately expressed optimism about Trump's tariff war. They believe that since Xi Jinping has ignored their advice for years, the pressure from Trump might finally force Beijing to make internal changes. One former official even said that policies aimed at boosting domestic demand now face fewer obstacles, as long as they're framed as responses to U.S. pressure. But shifting toward domestic consumption won't be easy. The CCP has long relied on government investment, and household spending remains low. Changing direction will be difficult. Meanwhile, the global market is also weak. Haibin Zhu, chief China economist at J.P. Morgan, said that worldwide demand is already sluggish. With the U.S. also raising tariffs on other countries, it's becoming nearly impossible for China to bypass the tariffs by exporting through other regions. Some analysts believe that the recent wave of signals is very unfavorable to Xi Jinping. They say his recent charm offensive in Southeast Asia may have been his last chance to show strength, but it ended in complete failure. More signs suggest that Xi Jinping is losing control. Some rumors even claim he's been placed under house arrest or has stepped back from power. On April 21st and 22nd, Indonesia's defense minister and foreign minister visited Beijing. They were greeted by CCP Vice President Han Zheng, Foreign Minister Wang Yi, Defense Minister Dong Jun, and General Zhang Youxia, the vice chairman of the Central Military Commission. But Xi, who is the chairman of the Military Commission, was nowhere to be seen. Chinese state media made no mention of Xi Jinping meeting the visitors or attending the meetings. His absence quickly raised questions and fueled speculation. Chinese political commentator Chen Po-kong said there are two possible explanations for Xi's absence. He pointed out that as president, Xi is in charge of foreign affairs and usually insists on appearing in person. He likes to be the center of attention. As long as he's healthy and still holds full power, he always meets foreign guests. With Indonesia's foreign and defense ministers both in Beijing, there's no reason for Xi to skip the meeting unless something is seriously wrong. The most conservative guess, according to Chen, is that Xi fell ill. After every overseas trip, he tends to disappear for a while. Chen said that his trip to Southeast Asia was planned well in advance. Xi might have felt confident it would help him break Trump's tariff strategy by increasing trade through Southeast Asia. But Trump's move to apply equal tariffs to all countries immediately blocked that path, so Xi returned empty-handed. The failure may have left him both angry and anxious, possibly enough to make him sick. Chen also floated another possibility. Xi may not be sick at all. He may have been placed under some form of house arrest. He explained that many people close to Xi have recently gotten into serious trouble. His key allies in the military, He Weidong, Miao Hua, senior generals, Politburo members, and the head of the General Political Department have all been jailed. The 31st Group Army and the Eastern Theater Command have been purged. Xi is now left with no power base in the military. Politically, there's been a shift too. The head of the organization department was replaced by someone linked to former President Hu Jintao. Xi's ally, Li Ganjie, has been sidelined. He and Shi Taifeng have switched roles. Shi is now the head of the organization department, which is a powerful post, while Li was moved to the less influential United Workfront department. This change suggests a shift in power. Commentator Li Dayu said, Xi Jinping still holds the title of chairman of the Central Military Commission, so he should not be absent from such an important meeting. His absence raises questions about whether his role in military and diplomatic affairs is being pushed aside. Recently, vice chairman of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, Hu Chenhua, visited Africa, but state media gave the visit very little coverage. The same goes for footage of Zhang Youxia meeting with Indonesia's defense minister. Only Hong Kong's Bastille media showed any video from the meeting. If it was a high-level meeting, why did China's central media avoid reporting it? Li Dayu believes the Chinese government doesn't want to confirm too early that Xi is losing power, but this kind of media silence ends up reinforcing that idea. Military analyst Shen Zhou said that Dong Jun, the current defense minister, is not a member of the Central Military Commission and only holds a nominal title without decision-making power. According to past practices under the chairman system, Xi Jinping would be the one making decisions. But this time, Zhang Youxia met with the Indonesian defense minister alone, suggesting Zhang now has the authority to make decisions on behalf of the commission. Shen believes that with political department head Miao Hua under investigation and vice chairman He Weidong also confirmed to be in trouble, the Central Military Commission is effectively under Zhang Youxia's control. This suggests Xi Jinping has lost his grip on the military. Shen added that this news appears to be intentionally highlighting a major shift in military leadership, sending a clear message both inside and outside China. Researcher Shen Mingshi at Taiwan's Institute for National Defense and Security Research said recent developments support rumors that Zhang Youxia is now in charge. He added that since He Weidong is under investigation and Xi Jinping's power is weakening, Zhang's control over the military makes it increasingly likely that Xi may step down earlier than expected. Jin Canrong, often nicknamed Xi Jinping's national advisor by Chinese internet users, recently posted that Trump still holds two powerful cards in the trade war, delisting Chinese stocks in the U.S. and banning U.S. investments in China. He also warned that Beijing needs to be prepared. Observers believe Jin's comments are not just about shaping public opinion. As someone close to Xi Jinping, his message may suggest that even he has lost confidence in China's economy and in Xi personally. Some users analyzed that Trump actually has far more than two cards. They said if Trump decides to play his hand, the CCP won't be able to handle the pressure. They listed Trump's potential options: taxing or freezing Chinese assets in the U.S., targeting the yuan's exchange rate, seizing Chinese-held U.S. Treasury bonds, forcing U.S. firms to pull out of Chinese bonds, increasing sanctions on Chinese tech companies, and expanding export restrictions. Each move could deal a major blow to the CCP. At the same time, the effects of China's retaliatory tariffs are already becoming clear. For years, China has heavily relied on soybean imports. The U.S. is one of the world's top exporters of soybeans. In 2024, over half of the farm goods China imported from the U.S. were soybeans. After China raised its retaliatory tariffs on the U.S. to 125%, Chinese companies were forced to stop importing American soybeans and wheat. This has had a severe impact on the feed and livestock industries, pushing meat prices even higher. Alternative markets haven't been cheap either. Although soybeans from South America avoid tariffs, transportation and storage costs are much higher. Plus, a surge in demand has driven prices up quickly. Small businesses and farmers have been hit the hardest, and in the end, it's consumers who are paying the price. On April 22nd, U.S. time, President Trump played a new card. Speaking about the U.S.-China tariff war and trade talks, he said the two sides must reach a deal. If Beijing doesn't agree, the U.S. will create one on its own. If a deal is reached, tariffs on China will drop significantly, but not to zero. Trump said talks with China are going well because everyone wants to be part of the U.S. market. He added that any upcoming meetings with Chinese representatives would be very friendly. Still, he insisted that Beijing will eventually be forced to agree to some kind of deal to avoid the heavy tariffs. When asked by reporters, Trump said COVID-19 would not be brought up in the talks and he wouldn't take a hardline tone. But he made one thing clear. He said, if we don't have a deal with a company or country, we're going to set the tariff. He added that the U.S. is the one setting the agreement. He and his staff will write the deal and it will be fair for everyone. On the same day, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent spoke at a private investor meeting in Washington, D.C. He said the current high tariffs essentially amount to a trade embargo between the U.S. and China. He warned that negotiations might be tough, but both sides now realize the current situation can't go on. Trump said that if a deal is made, tariffs would be lowered, but not to zero. In the past, China took advantage of the situation, and it won't happen again. He also mentioned that the U.S. will treat China fairly, but the Chinese Communist Party has been making tens of billions of dollars a year while using American technology to build its military. He said that must stop. When asked whether Trump would speak directly with Xi Jinping, a White House spokesperson said there was no information to share. Senior analysts noted that Trump has recently been using a more measured tone and has sounded optimistic about reaching a deal with Beijing. He also highlighted his personal connection with Xi. While many think that Trump is backing down under pressure, analysts believe the opposite. They see his calm tone as a sign that he's in full control of the negotiation and confident about winning. That's why he doesn't need to be aggressive anymore. Now Trump is waiting for China to respond. If he were losing ground, he wouldn't sit there. He'd strike back. For example, when he saw that Xi Jinping was trying to pressure Southeast Asian countries into taking China's side against the U.S., Trump immediately hit Cambodia with a massive 3,521% tariff. Cambodia is seen as a country heavily influenced by China. That move shocked the world. It wasn't just a tariff, it was a powerful signal. As Trump closes in on the CCP, he's plugging every loophole as soon as he finds one. He's giving the CCP no room to breathe. The strategy is to put pressure on the Chinese economy until it's close to suffocating, then offer one final option: surrender. So now, President Trump is sending out a more relaxed tone, and that's actually good news for China's economy, for society, and for the Chinese people, but not necessarily for the Chinese Communist Party. That's because Trump's target this time isn't China or its people. His focus is on the CCP itself. Right now, many top officials inside the CCP are just sitting back and waiting to see Xi Jinping embarrass himself. The ball is already in his court, and he has no choice but to respond. If Xi ends up reaching a real agreement with Trump during the upcoming negotiations, it would mean the CCP has to make serious changes, real structural political reforms. That would force the regime to abandon its rogue behavior. In other words, it would be a clear admission of defeat in the showdown against the U.S., and Xi Jinping would be seen seen as surrendering on behalf of the CCP. But for Xi, that would mean total political ruin, which is unacceptable. If he tries to push the ball back or stalls for more time, maybe even planning to start a war over Taiwan to shift attention, he'll be met with fierce opposition from within. And right now, he may not even have the power or resources to launch a war. So the most likely outcome is that Xi will step aside before formal talks begin, claiming health reasons, and let a temporary replacement take the lead in negotiations. Trump seems to have anticipated this move. He knows this is an old trick the CCP often plays. If a different leader steps in, the CCP can later claim there was confusion over who had the authority and use that to tear up the agreement. That's why Trump insists on speaking with Xi Jinping directly. He won't leave any room for the CCP to dodge responsibility. The only way out is for Xi to publicly step down right now. It's clear that many officials within the CCP who have been unhappy with Xi are enjoying this moment. No matter how this plays out, the outcome is something Xi definitely doesn't want to face.